Imagine carrying a weight so heavy, a burden so deep that it shapes the way you see the world and everyone around you. For 30 years, I lived with that weight, hating an entire group of people based on nothing more than fear and ignorance. But what if I told you that in one moment, everything changed? That one encounter opened my eyes and set me free, allowing me to see the world in a completely new light. Today, I stand before you not as the person I once was, but as someone who has learned the true power of love and understanding. Hatred is a powerful emotion that can shape an individual's worldview, often without them even realizing it. It's a toxic force, deeply embedded in society and sometimes handed down through generations. In many cases, hatred is learned rather than innate. It often begins with misunderstanding and fear of the unfamiliar. For some, hatred is passed along in subtle ways through family members, peers, or the media. These influences create stereotypes, and in doing so, they shape a person's perception of certain groups of people. In the case of hating Muslims, it can be traced to an environment where fear of the other is rampant. Growing up, you may hear negative things about Muslims, maybe even without fully understanding what those words mean. Media portrayals, which often focus on violence or extremism, reinforce these ideas, creating an image of Muslims that is narrow, distorted, and rooted in fear. Over time, these influences turn into deeply ingrained beliefs, often without ever encountering a Muslim person in real life. What's striking about hatred is how it clouds one's ability to see people for who they truly are. Instead of seeing individuals, you start seeing labels: Muslims, immigrants, them. When this happens, the chance to connect on a human level is blocked. Prejudices grow stronger, and understanding is replaced by suspicion. The human connection we all crave becomes impossible because we are conditioned to focus on differences rather than shared experiences. Hatred doesn't just affect how you see others, it also harms you. See, it narrows your world and limits your ability to empathize with people who are different from you. When we grow up in an environment where hatred is allowed to flourish, it becomes our reality, shaping everything we do and think, often without us ever realizing how destructive it is. Carrying hate, whether consciously or unconsciously, has a profound impact on a person's life. It doesn't just affect the target of your hate, it starts to affect you too. When you hold on to hatred, it becomes a part of your identity, clouding your judgment and distorting your ability to connect with others. Over time, this negative emotion takes a heavy toll on your mental and emotional well-being. Hate breeds fear, and fear limits growth. It creates barriers between you and the people around you, preventing meaningful relationships and experiences. When you view others through a lens of hatred, your world shrinks. Instead of seeing the richness of human diversity, you only see divisions and reasons to fear or distrust. Your ability to empathize and relate to others weakens, leaving you isolated. Hate also consumes energy that could otherwise be used for positivity, creativity, or self-improvement. It fosters bitterness and resentment, which drain your spirit and keep you stuck in negativity. The longer you carry this burden, the harder it becomes to break free. This poison doesn't just stay in your heart, it spreads into your thoughts, your actions, and your interactions, shaping every aspect of your life in a harmful way. When hatred takes root in your heart, it changes the way you see the world. You start to look at everything through a divided lens, where people are categorized into us and them. This division isn't just about abstract concepts. It shapes how you interact with others in every aspect of it. You begin to interpret the actions, words, and behaviors of others based on preconceived judgments and stereotypes rather than seeing them as individuals. For instance, if you've been taught to view Muslims as a threat or as the other, your interactions with them or even your thoughts about them will be colored by this bias. Every piece of news, every conversation, every encounter will be filtered through that lens. If you hear about a Muslim involved in an incident, your automatic response may not be to see them as a person first, but to reinforce your belief about the group as a whole. This lens of division keeps you from recognizing the full complexity and humanity of the people around you. This distorted worldview also breeds fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of the different, fear of being wrong, and fear limits your growth, your ability to see things clearly. It keeps you from truly understanding others and prevents you from recognizing the shared values, emotions, and experiences that make us all human. By seeing the world in such black and white terms, you miss out on the richness that comes from embracing diversity, making connections, and challenging your own assumptions. A turning point in life often comes unexpectedly, challenging everything you thought you knew. For someone who has lived with hatred for years, this moment can be jarring, but it's also transformative. The turning point occurs when you come face to face with the very person or group you've been taught to fear into. It's an encounter that defies your expectations, challenging the deeply ingrained beliefs you've carried for so long. In the case of hatred towards Muslims, the turning point might come when you meet someone who defies the stereotypes you've internalized. It could be a Muslim individual who acts with kindness or compassion in a way you didn't think was possible. Maybe it's a conversation that opens your eyes to the shared human experience you've been missing. In these moments, your world begins to shift, slowly, but surely. The rigid divisions you've held begin to blur, and for the first time you see the person, not the label. This is the moment when the possibility of change becomes real. It's not just an intellectual understanding, but an emotional realization that can be life-changing. The encounter serves as a catalyst, forcing you to confront the lies and assumptions that had been governing your thoughts and actions. One of the most profound shifts that occur when you let go of hate is the realization that every individual is much more than the label they've been assigned. Labels like Muslim, immigrant, or enemy often obscure the complex, multifaceted nature of a person. When hatred clouds your judgment, you start seeing people only through these labels, reducing them to something one-dimensional. But when you begin to peel back those layers, you start to see something far more important: their humanity. Meeting someone who challenges your preconceived notions, like a Muslim who steps in to help or show kindness, forces you to see them not as a symbol of a group, but as an individual with their own story, emotions, and values. In that moment, you begin to understand that people are not defined by their religion, race, or culture. They are defined by their actions, their hearts, and their capacity for kindness. This shift is crucial because it fosters empathy. Instead of making assumptions based on what you think you know about a group, you approach others with openness and a willingness to connect. You realize that we all share similar hopes, dreams, struggles, and desires. The moment you see beyond the labels, you start to build real, meaningful relationships, breaking down the walls that hatred had built. Compassion and empathy are the catalyst for breaking down the walls built by hatred. When you begin to view others not through a lens of judgment, but through a lens of understanding, something powerful happens. You start to recognize the humanity in everyone, regardless of their background or beliefs. The impact of compassion is often transformative. In the case of someone who has lived with hatred, a simple act of kindness or a moment of empathy from another person can serve as a wake-up call. It forces you to reevaluate your beliefs and to question why you ever thought ill of someone based solely on their identity. Compassion doesn't require grand gestures. Sometimes it's the small, everyday acts of kindness that change everything. Empathy allows you to step into another person's shoes and see the world through their eyes. When you're able to empathize with someone, you break free from the stereotypes and assumptions that have guided your thoughts. For instance, a Muslim person showing kindness, despite the prejudice you may have held, opens the door to a deeper understanding. Through these acts, you realize that all people, regardless of their faith, are capable of goodness, love, and sacrifice. Compassion and empathy offer the opportunity to see people as they truly are, not as the label society has imposed upon them. One of the most significant shifts that occurs when you begin to let go of hatred is the opportunity to understand the true nature of something you once feared or misunderstood. In the case of Islam, much of the fear and hatred directed towards Muslims is based on misconceptions and stereotypes that have been perpetuated by media, politics, and cultural divides. These distorted views often focus on extremism and violence, which, although a reality in certain contexts, do not represent the majority of Muslims or the core teachings of Islam itself. Islam, like many other world religions, teaches values of peace, compassion, and justice. The word Islam itself comes from the Arabic root SLM, which means peace and submission to the will of God. The central tenets of Islam emphasize respect for human dignity, charity, and the importance of helping those in need. When you begin to explore the true nature of Islam through education and direct interactions with Muslims, you realize that many of the negative stereotypes you once held are based on ignorance, not truth. As you learn more about the religion, you discover its rich history of intellectual and cultural contributions to the world, as well as its deep focus on spiritual growth and community. The teachings of the Quran and the actions of the Prophet Muhammad emphasize kindness, respect, and the importance of community, which are universal values that resonate across cultures and religions. When you begin to understand Islam on a deeper level, you can see that it, like all major world religions, calls for peace, unity, and the betterment of humanity. This understanding, built on knowledge and personal experiences, shatters the misconceptions and provides an opportunity for reconciliation, healing, and growth. Carrying hate for an extended period doesn't just affect how we view others, it exacts a heavy toll on our own mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Hatred is like a slow poison that eats away at the heart, clouding the mind and distorting our perspective on life. What many don't realize is that holding on to hate isn't just detrimental to the person or group you direct it at, it's equally harmful to yourself. The emotional cost of hate is profound. Hatred is often rooted in fear, resentment, and pain, and when these feelings are allowed to fester, they create a barrier to emotional growth. Hatred prevents healing, trapping you in a cycle of bitterness and negativity. Instead of experiencing joy, peace, and connection, your heart becomes heavy with distrust and fear, pushing you further away from the love and understanding that could transform your life. On a mental level, hate consumes your thoughts. It occupies mental space that could otherwise be used for positive pursuits, creativity, or constructive problem solving. This mental energy is drained, and over time, it can lead to anxiety, stress, and even depression. The constant negative thoughts associated with hate take away your ability to think clearly or engage with the world in a healthy way. Moreover, the physical toll of holding on to hatred can manifest in the form of increased stress, tension, and even health problems. Studies have shown that long-term negative emotions, including anger and hatred, can contribute to heart disease, high blood pressure, and other serious physical conditions. The mind-body connection is powerful, and when negative emotions dominate, they don't just affect your mental health, they impact your physical health as well. In this way, hatred harms the individual who holds it, limiting their potential for happiness and well-being. Personal growth and transformation are often triggered by moments of deep reflection and self-awareness. When you let go of hate, you make space for personal growth that was once stifled by your narrow worldview. The process of change doesn't happen overnight, but it begins the moment you decide to challenge your long-held beliefs, especially those rooted in prejudice or fear. For someone who has lived with hate for years, the journey of transformation begins with self-reflection. You start to question why you held those beliefs in the first place, where they came from, and how they shape the way you view the world. This introspection is crucial because it forces you to confront uncomfortable truths about yourself, about the biases, fears, and misconceptions you may have internalized without even realizing it. It's often a humbling experience, but it is also liberating. When you allow yourself to embrace personal growth, you begin to experience the world in a more expansive way. You open yourself up to learning new things, to meeting people from diverse backgrounds, and to understanding different perspectives. This broadening of your horizons fosters empathy, compassion, and deeper connections with others. You begin to realize that the world is not as divided as you once thought, and that common ground exists in shared human experiences. This transformation also leads to a greater sense of freedom. The emotional weight of hate, which once dominated your thoughts and actions, is replaced by the freedom to engage with the world with an open heart and mind. Personal growth, therefore, becomes not just about changing your views on others, but about freeing yourself from the chains of hate, allowing you to live a more fulfilling, authentic life. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful forces for healing, not just for the person being forgiven, but for the one offering forgiveness as well. Holding on to grudges and hatred only perpetuates division and conflict. When you choose to forgive, you break free from the chains of negativity that have kept you imprisoned in a cycle of resentment. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forget the wrongs done to you or accept harmful behavior. It's about releasing the emotional weight that comes with holding on to anger. Forgiveness is transformative because it allows you to reclaim your peace of mind and your ability to connect with others. When you forgive, you acknowledge that you don't have to let the past define your present or your future. Instead, you choose to move forward, focusing on healing and growth. It's a courageous act that demands self-awareness and emotional maturity. Unity, on the other hand, arises when people come together despite their differences. It happens when individuals choose to focus on what unites them rather than what divides them. Unity is built on the recognition that, despite our various backgrounds, religions, and cultures, we all share common human experiences: love, fear, joy, pain. When we acknowledge these shared experiences, it becomes easier to set aside prejudice and work together for the common good. Forgiveness and unity go hand in hand. When you forgive those who have wronged you, and when you recognize the humanity in others, you create an environment where unity can flourish. A united society, one built on understanding, empathy, and forgiveness, is stronger and more resilient. We all have the power to contribute to that unity. One act of kindness, one act of forgiveness at a time. The journey from hate to understanding is not easy, but it is one of the most rewarding paths you can take. By letting go of prejudice, embracing compassion, and opening our hearts to others, we can break down the walls that divide us. We are all human, with shared hopes, dreams, and struggles. Through forgiveness and unity, we can build a stronger, more connected world. Thank you for listening and for allowing me to share this message with you. May you find the courage to challenge your biases, embrace love, and live in peace. Good luck on your journey.